the guys who seem to be involved in some of the positive plays for you last night is Noah Laba. Curious, your read on him so far, because obviously he's just turning pro, was in college last year. Is he opening your eyes? Is he showing you that he might be close to being ready? Like, is he working his way into a point where you can maybe consider him in a competition to play an NHL role sooner than later?
That might be too early to have that conversation at this point, but he certainly has performed extremely well in this early part of camp. And, we feel like he's getting better with every game that he plays. I think he has his physical stature, I think sets him up for, for an opportunity to compete in the NHL. He's big and he's strong and he can skate. For some players that are making the jump, that's the first hurdle. And I think Labs, has an NHL body in the sense that he's big and strong and can skate. There's a lot of other elements that go into playing in the NHL, but we're certainly really encouraged with what we've seen so far.
I know early at the beginning we talked about third line and how that might shake out, and you talked about it wanting to be a conscientious line, and we talked specifically about Parsonen. I'm wondering, what other guys are you looking at as kind of candidates in that mix?
Yeah, well, Labs is one of them for sure. Mm-hmm. And whether or not he makes the opening night roster, time will tell. I mean, I think it's too early. It'd be premature to mm-hmm. I think to weigh in on that at this point. I'm reluctant to make any sort of predictions at this point. I try to reserve judgment and just let the camp unfold. And with each game that we play and each practice we have, we learn a little bit more about the group we have. Being a first-year coach here, trying to familiarize myself up close with some of these guys, I think it's important that I reserve judgment in particular because I'm not as familiar with them as some of our other hockey operations people, for example. So, but I think Labs has performed extremely well. When I watched him in Lehigh at the rookie tournament to where he is right now, I feel like he's taken a big giant step with his pace of play, how quickly he thinks it. I think he's getting involved physically a little bit more. Last night in particular, just getting his nose over pucks, creating separation on pucks down in the defensive zone, down low. He has the ability to do that because he's big and strong. And so, and that's an important element of being hard to play against, and the role that if you were to play on this team, that would be a welcome addition.
You spoke about Rempe on Sunday and how impressed you were with some of the things that he did, holding on to pucks and the like. His first, year and a half in the league, he's been known as a puncher, right? And I think he'd like to be more than that. Do you see a potential for Rempe to be more of an all-around player as opposed to just a guy who's been an enforcer so far?
Yes, I think he can skate. I think it's hard for me to comment on his overall development as far as where he came from to where he is now because I wasn't part of that experience. I can tell you what I see when I watch him play right now is, his pace is really strong. He has a strong stride. He's strong on pucks. Sometimes as a bigger guy, it's hard in the puck battles when you're in the battle areas because players get underneath you. Their center of gravity is lower than yours, and players can get underneath you, get under your hands, things of that nature, make it hard to protect pucks. And one of the things we talk a lot about is trying to battle people eye to eye, so lowering your center of gravity and getting a wider stance when you're in the battle areas to try to give yourself an advantage from a leverage standpoint. And I think Remps is picking some of this stuff up. I think he's strong on pucks. He protects pucks well. I think he has the ability to make a play. His willingness to go to the net front, and battle on rebounds, make the sightlines goal, for the goaltender difficult. All those things are invaluable to manufacture an offense. And so, I think he has the ability to, to really help us with momentum, just as far as controlling territory, wearing teams down, making it hard on our opponent's defensemen in the down low game. and it'll be interesting to watch. But I feel like that he has the potential to manufacture offense with some of the game that he's played to this point. And so I've been really encouraged when I've watched him play. I think he's in great shape, but he's strong. And he's strong on pucks. He's hockey strong, not just, there's a difference. And I think he's hockey strong. He has functional strength on the ice, just with how stiff he is on pucks and in the battles and using his body to protect it and things of that nature.
And if I could follow up, it's hard with those two guys, but Rempe and Edstrom are always like, we think of them almost together. They play a lot together. So, and Edstrom, you looked at him with Mika and JT early in camp and stuff. What have you seen from him?
I think he's in a similar category. Once again, he's one of the more fit guys we have in camp. He's really strong. He's a very powerful guy. Skates well. I think he has the ability to protect pucks well. These guys, sometimes when the bigger guys, it takes them a little bit longer for whatever reason to grow into their mature game. And I think both of these guys are. We're excited about what they can bring to our team. I think I'll continue to watch and see what sort of combinations we can put together and how we can utilize them. But we certainly have been encouraged to this point with how these guys have played and how they've performed.
One last guy I wanted to ask you about is Adam Fox. We talked about him also earlier, but I'm more curious about workload and how you envision using him. Like, obviously, top pair, 5-on-5, power play, penalty kill. Like, he's done all those things. He's good at all those things. I imagine he'll continue to do all those things. But do you see any potential benefit in finding spots to manage it and taking anything off of his plate, or do you feel like he's just so valuable you have to keep rolling him out there for as much as you can?
Well, I think it's a great question, first and foremost, because I think about this stuff a lot, and I think obviously he's an elite defenseman. He's going to play in all situations, right? But I do think it's important that as the head coach and the coaching staff that we manage workloads throughout the course of the year for all of our guys. And the reason you manage workloads is so that you have the ability to sustain performance night in and night out, game in and game out, week in and week out, month in and month out, and so on. And so, and one of the challenges of playing in this league is the grind of the schedule. You're playing 3 or 4 nights a week, you're traveling, and you're in different time zones, and it is without a doubt, it's a grind. And with the speed of the game in today's game, I think it's even more prevalent. And so, whether it be some of the forwards up front that are playing in all situations, or a guy like Foxy on the back end, I think it's important that we have an eye on where their workloads are. Now, what I'll tell you is I think as a coach, over the course of time, you learn what players are capable of handling. Everybody's a little bit different in that regard. Some guys can handle more minutes than others, but I think it's important to have a conversation around that and be aware of that so that we can get the best version of each guy. And so there's diminishing returns with respect to that if we're not careful in those situations, and we'll watch that as I get to know the group and we get to know the group as a coaching staff better. I also think by nature of managing some of the workloads and casting others in roles, I think it helps us become a team, because now there's guys that maybe don't get minutes, that if we're able to share the workload a little bit in certain situations, we can cast guys in certain roles that they can pride themselves in their contribution in helping the Rangers win. And I think that's an important element of becoming a team. So, that's something that we've talked about as a coaching staff also. So for all of those reasons, I think we have to have an eye on all of our players as far as workload is concerned, and where, what sets everybody up for success. And I think as we get more familiar with these guys, I think we'll get more of a comfort level with that understanding.
Sounds like that lends itself to maybe having more guys ready to contribute on power play or penalty kill, like having the versatility to have multiple guys you can use in those spots instead of relying on the same 6 guys for forwards for penalty kill all the time or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying guys in different roles throughout the course of the exhibition season, you know. We're utilizing Parse, for example, on the penalty kill, you know. Historically in the league, he hasn't killed a lot of penalties, right? So we're trying him, you know.
Saw Edstrom there yesterday, I think, yeah.
Right, so we're moving guys into certain roles to see if there's capacity to play. And, you know, understanding that there's going to be a learning process there if guys don't have a lot of experience in those aspects. So we're trying to explore that a little bit to see what we got and what our options might be.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.